Imagine spending like thousands of dollars on equipment.
Oh, it happens every single
You're
day.
purely dedicating just countless weekends to perfecting this one physical motion, only to realize that um, your own brain is actively sabotaging your body before you even move a single muscle.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
It's agonizing. And that is the reality for just millions of amateur golfers trying to improve their game. So, welcome to the Deep Dive.
Glad to be here to help untangle it.
Today, we are taking you on a journey to really demystify the golf swing. Our roadmap is this remarkably practical, comprehensive guide called Mastering Golf, the Fundamental Principles.
Which is a fantastic resource, by the way.
It really is. And our mission today is straightforward. We want to shortcut you to a better, much more consistent golf game. We're going to break down why excellent golf is rooted in natural mechanics, a fluid swing feeling, precise impact, rather than that traditional trap of agonizing over perfect-looking robotic body position.
Right, because the psychology of how we approach this specific sport is incredibly counterproductive.
How so?
Well, most people do not learn physical skills by creating like rigid mental checklists.
Right.
If you are learning to throw a baseball, you don't freeze your arm midway through the throw to check the angle of your elbow.
No, you'd look ridiculous.
Exactly. You just look at the catcher's mitt and your body naturally organizes itself to deliver the ball. But on the first tee box, a golfer will flood their mind with like 15 different body parts they supposedly need to control simultaneously.
Just totally overloading the system.
Completely. As a teacher, I see players constantly who have these beautiful textbook positions when they pause at the top of their backswing.
Oh, yeah, they look like touring professionals in a photograph.
Right. Yet they can barely make solid contact with the ball. They are posing for a picture. They aren't actually swinging a golf club.
Okay, let's unpack this mindset shift right away, because the guide makes a fascinating point regarding that natural motion. It argues that golf is, at its core, a continuous, relaxed, swinging motion built entirely on rhythm.
Yes, rhythm is everything.
It is not a sequence of static positions just stitched together. The very first skill you have to develop is just allowing the club head to swing freely. Like it should feel heavy at the end of the shaft, moving in an unbroken circle.
Continuous circle, right.
And supposedly, just doing that fixes the most common mishits. But here is a concept that really caught my eye, and I mean, it feels completely backward at first glance.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, the guide says the golf ball is not your target. The target is the fairway or the green. The golf ball just happens to get in the way of your swinging club.
What's fascinating here is how the human brain processes an intended strike, right?
Yeah.
And why viewing the ball as the target is just the biggest psychological trap in the sport.
Okay, lay it on me.
Well, when you obsess over the golf ball sitting on the grass, your brain registers that small white sphere as the final destination of your physical exertion.
The finish line, basically.
Exactly. Because of that, instead of a continuous fluid circle that accelerates completely through the ball and finishes high up by your lead shoulder, your brain sends a subconscious signal to just, well, hit the object.
So you just sort of jab at it.
Right. It completely derails the mechanics. Your muscles tense up in anticipation of the strike, your rhythm stalls out, and your smooth swing devolves into a jerky, violent jab right at the moment of impact.
So by staring a hole through the ball, you are practically guaranteeing that your swing will decelerate and break down right when it matters most.
That's exactly what happens.
It reminds me of using a hammer. Like, if you were trying to drive a nail into a piece of wood, you don't stare intensely at the heavy metal head of the hammer as you swing it.
No, you'd probably hit your thumb.
Right. If you did, you would miss the nail completely. You focus on the nail itself, and your brain naturally calculates how to swing the heavy tool to intersect with it. The nail is the target. The hammer is just passing through the space. But wait, if I don't obsess over the golf ball, won't I just, whiff and miss it completely?
I get that question a lot. But if we connect this to the bigger picture of the golf swing, the target out on the fairway is the nail.
Okay.
The golf ball is just a point in space that the club head passes through on its way to finishing the circle. That sudden deceleration and tension you get from hitting at the ball rather than swinging through it, that's the actual root cause of the mishits the guide mentions.
Like the fat shot.
Yes. For instance, the fat shot, where your club violently digs into the dirt several inches behind the ball, sending a massive chunk of turf flying while the ball barely moves.
Oh, I know that one well.
We all do.
Yeah.
That happens because your body panicked tensed up, and release the club head early to hit the ball, which destroys the bottom of your swing arc.
And the text also mentions thin shots in that same category of errors. I've always heard that term, but I'm not entirely sure what the physics of a thin shot actually are.
Right. So a thin shot is the exact opposite of a fat shot. But, and this is key, it is caused by the same tension. Yeah. Instead of hitting the ground early, your tense muscles pull your arms inward and upward right at impact. As a result, the bottom edge of your club face strikes the equator of the golf ball rather than sweeping beneath it.
Oh, and it sends the ball screaming across the grass at knee height.
Usually way past the green into a bunker. But both fat and thin shots disappear when you shift your focus to the ultimate target and let the heavy club head trace its natural circle.
That makes total sense. The tension from ball obsession just breaks the circle.
Mm.
So, assuming we can get our brains to accept this continuous circular motion as the ultimate goal, the body needs a starting geometry that doesn't, physically obstruct that circle.
Which brings us to the setup.
Exactly. And the guide works entirely backward from the club itself. The source material is absolutely adamant about this. You must always build your stance around the golf club, not the golf ball.
Because the club is the instrument dictating the circle. If you walk up to the ball, place your feet first, shuffle your weight around to get comfortable, and then try to fit the club to your body's position well, you are immediately compromising the geometry of the swing.
You're forcing the tool to adapt to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead, you should step up and place the club head behind the ball exactly how it was engineered to sit, with the sole resting flat against the ground. Once the club is perfectly positioned, then you build your posture and place your feet around it.
The text describes that ideal posture as athletic. Like you want a straight back, a slight flex in the knees, bending forward from the hips rather than just slumping the shoulders.
Right, active posture.
But the element of the setup that feels the most counterintuitive to me is the grip. The guide gets very specific about how the hands should connect to the club. It states you must hold the club primarily in the fingers, not resting deep in the palms.
This is a huge sticking point for a lot of players.
I bet. And furthermore, both of the V shapes, the creases formed between your thumb and index finger on each hand, should point backward toward your trailing shoulder. I'll be honest, gripping a metal club that you are swinging at 90 miles an hour, mostly in the fingers, sounds precarious.
It feels weak at first.
It feels like holding a heavy, oversized suitcase by your fingertips. I instinctively want to grip it like a baseball bat, deep in the palms for leverage. Is a bad grip really a total deal breaker, even if I spend hours at the driving range?
It absolutely is. And this raises an important question about the structural differences between a baseball swing and a golf swing.
Okay.
A baseball bat is swung horizontally on a flat plane. A golf club is swung on a tilted angle down toward the ground. If you hold the golf club deep in the palms of your hands like a baseball bat, you effectively lock the hinges of your wrists.
Oh, I see.
A finger grip is mandatory because it guarantees mobility. The fingers act as the hinges that allow the club to swing upward on the backswing and release powerfully through impact.
So the palms lock the wrists, but the fingers allow the club to hinge. That explains the mobility part. But what about those V shapes pointing to the trailing shoulder? Why does the orientation of my thumbs matter so much?
Well, the orientation of those V shapes ensures that your hands and your club face are synchronized. When the V's point to your trailing shoulder, your hands are positioned in a way that allows them to rotate naturally with the turning of your torso.
So they work together.
Right. As your body uncoils during the downswing, that specific grip naturally returns the club face to a perfectly square position at impact. If your grip is twisted too far one way or the other, you have to subconsciously manipulate your wrists at the very last millisecond to try and square the club face.
And there's just no time for that.
None. A finger grip with the V's pointed back removes the need for that last-second manipulation. It allows for effortless speed and guarantees clubhead awareness, simply because the nerves in your fingers are far more sensitive than the calluses on your palms.
Wow. It is starting to sound like a bad grip is essentially a structural failure before the swing even begins.
It really is.
And the guide links this directly to the distance you stand from the ball, too. Standing too close restricts your arm movement because your hands get trapped against your torso, which ruins club face control.
You need space to swing.
Right. So we have the club resting flat, our grip is secured in our fingers with the V shapes aligned, and we have enough space for our arms to swing naturally. Next, we have to talk about aiming all of this machinery.
The fun part.
Yeah, the guide dives deeply into the geometry of alignment, noting that the body will naturally swing around its established setup position. The golden rule presented here is that your feet, your hips, and your shoulders must be exactly parallel to the target line.
Yes. The easiest way to visualize this geometry is to imagine you are standing on a set of railroad tracks.
Okay.
The golf ball is resting on the right track, and that track points directly at your ultimate target on the fairway. Your feet, your hips, and your shoulders are positioned on the left track.
Got it.
The two tracks run parallel to each other. Your body is never actually aiming at the target, it is aiming parallel left of it.
Okay, let's unpack this, because this is exactly where my survival instinct fights the logic. Let's say I'm struggling with a massive slice. Every time I hit the driver, the ball curves aggressively to the right and disappears into the trees.
A very common problem.
My brain screams at me to aim my entire body far to the left to compensate. The logic is simple. If I aim way left and the ball curves right, it should end up right in the middle of the fairway. Why does the guide insist that compensating with my aim is the exact wrong thing to do?
It is a completely logical thought process, but it is a fatal trap.
A trap.
Yes. If you aim your feet and shoulders far to the left, but your brain still recognizes that the actual fairway is straight ahead, a conflict occurs. Subconsciously, your brain will try to override your setup.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. As you swing down, you will manipulate your arms to try and force the club back toward the real target. This creates what we call an out-to-in swing path.
What does out to in actually look like in motion?
Well, instead of the club dropping down naturally behind your body and swinging outward toward the target, your arms push the club out away from your chest at the top of the swing. Then, you violently chop across the golf ball, pulling the club sharply left, inward toward your left pocket.
Like chopping wood.
Exactly. Imagine trying to cut down a tree with an axe, but pulling the axe handle across your body right as you hit the bark. That wiping, cutting motion across the golf ball imparts massive clockwise side spin.
So by aiming my body to the left to fix the slice, I am physically forcing my arms to chop across the ball, which creates the exact side spin that caused the slice in the first place.
Precisely.
I am literally feeding the flaw.
You are feeding the flaw and ensuring the slice gets worse over time. You completely ruin any chance of a balanced, symmetrical swing. You have to trust the parallel alignment of those railroad tracks, even if it feels terrifying at first, because it is the only geometry that allows the club to swing squarely straight down the target line.
That is wild to think about.
Yeah.
You are basically fighting your own brain's misguided corrections.
Oh.
And part of that precise set of geometry involves where the ball actually sits between your feet.
Right, ball position.
The guide makes a very clear distinction. Ball position should be relative to your upper body, specifically your sternum, not your feet. Mid-irons are positioned slightly forward of the center of your chest. Wedges are dead center or slightly back. And the driver is placed all the way forward, opposite your lead armpit.
Because your sternum is the center point of your body's rotation, which means it dictates the exact bottom of your swing arc.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, since every club in your bag is a different length, positioning the ball relative to your upper body ensures the club face meets the ball at the precise moment it reaches the bottom of that continuous circle. A wedge is short, so the bottom of the arc is in the center of your stance. A driver is incredibly long, so the bottom of the arc is much further forward.
Which brings us perfectly to the climax of the swing. The moment of truth. All of this highly precise setup geometry, the finger grip, the parallel alignment, the posture, the ball position relative to the sternum, it all exists solely to optimize one fraction of a second. Impact.
Impact is the only thing the golf ball listens to.
Right.
It does not care how expensive your clubs are, and it does not care what your backswing looks like.
The source material is blunt about this.
Yeah.
It states that impact determines the quality of every single shot. And here's where it gets really interesting. The guide points out a fascinating irony.
Oh, the irony is
Highly skilled professional players often have wildly different looking swings, but they all arrive at remarkably similar impact positions. You go to a public course, and you see amateur golfers who have spent a fortune on video analysis trying to perfectly mimic the beautiful sweeping backswing of someone like Rory McIlroy.
I see it all the time.
But if the actual physics of their impact are a mess, all that aesthetic beauty in the backswing is completely useless.
Think about a player like Jim Furyk. He has a very unorthodox looping swing. He takes his hands incredibly high, drops the club straight down, and it looks incredibly chaotic.
Yeah, it looks like an octopus falling out of a tree.
That's one way to put it. But at the exact millisecond of impact, his club face The position of his hands ahead of the ball and the rotation of his hips are virtually identical to someone with a famously flawless swing like Adam Scott.
That's amazing.
The ultimate goal of golf is not a perfect-looking swing. The goal is consistent impact that delivers the club correctly.
The guide uses a very specific term for that correct delivery. It says, great players learn to compress the ball. That phrase always sounds like heavy industrial machinery to me, not a sport. What does it actually mean to compress a golf ball?
Well, it is the physics of energy transfer. When you strike an iron shot correctly, you are not trying to gently sweep the ball off the grass. Your club is actually still traveling slightly downward when it makes contact. Yes, the heavy steel club face strikes the back of the ball first, driving it forward and slightly down into the firm turf. For a microsecond, the golf ball is trapped between the club face and the earth.
Ouch.
It physically flattens out, squishing against the grooves of the club before violently rebounding and launching into the air. That trapping and squishing action is compression.
Wow.
It is what creates that crisp, echoing sound you hear when a professional hits an iron, and it maximizes both distance and control.
So it isn't a sweeping motion, it's a trapping motion. And the text gives a specific prescription for learning how to find that compression, practicing controlled half swings while maintaining proper club orientation.
I cannot emphasize the value of half swings enough for amateur players. A half swing strips away all the flashy, unnecessary noise of the full swing.
It just simplifies it.
Right. It removes the temptation to overswing for sheer power. It forces your brain to focus purely on the mechanics of delivering the club face squarely to the back of the ball. It is simply the fastest, most efficient way to teach your muscles what solid contact and correct swing path actually feel like.
But the guide issues a massive warning here. Understanding what perfect impact and compression look like conceptually is totally useless if you don't know what your body is physically doing when you are standing out on the grass.
You need feedback.
Exactly. You need immediate feedback to translate the theory into lower scores. The guide warns that practicing without real-time feedback is nothing more than guesswork.
Hitting bucket after bucket of balls on a driving range without knowing exactly why your shots are slicing or flying thin is actively detrimental to your game. Without feedback, you are just burning structurally flawed habits deeper into your muscle memory.
I relate to that so much. It is like bowling with the lights completely turned off.
Yeah.
You roll the heavy ball into the dark, you hear a crashing noise, a few pins fall down, but you have absolutely no idea what your body actually did to achieve that result.
That is a perfect analogy.
But the guide suggests using incredibly simple, cheap items to turn the lights on and provide that feedback. It says a gate made of rolled-up towels encourages a proper swing path, and a wooden tee placed a few inches ahead of the ball verifies your low point control. How exactly do those drills work?
They are brilliantly simple visuals. If you take two rolled-up towels and lay them parallel on the ground, creating a narrow channel just slightly wider than your club head, and you place your golf ball in the middle of that channel.
Okay, I can picture that.
If your swing path is out to in that chopping motion we discussed earlier that causes a slice, your club will smash into the outside towel before it ever reaches the ball.
Oh, wow.
It is instant, undeniable feedback. You don't need an expensive high-speed camera setup to tell you your path is wrong. The towel provides immediate physical evidence.
And what about the tee in the ground? How does that verify my low point?
You take a standard wooden tee and push it all the way into the ground, about 3 to 4 inches directly in front of the golf ball, right on your target line. Remember how we just discussed compression and how the club must hit the ball first and then continue downward into the
Exact
curve?
motion, yeah.
Right. If you hit the golf ball, but you leave the tee completely untouched, you know instantly that the bottom of your swing arc happened too early. You snooped the ball instead of compressing it.
So I want to break the tee.
Your goal is to strike the ball and then clip the tee out of the dirt. It physically forces you to shift your body weight forward and strike down powerfully through the impact zone.
That is an amazing way to monitor your own mechanics. So you use the towels for your path, the tees for your low point, and you practice these mechanics using half swings. This leads to what the guide calls the ultimate application of all these fundamentals, mastering a repeatable 50-yard half-swing wedge shot. It claims this specific short shot leads directly to better distance control, more greens in regulation, and significantly lower scores. But if I am a player who just wants to break 90 for the first time and I am struggling to hit my driver straight, why should I dedicate my practice time to obsessing over a tiny 50-yard wedge shot? How does that translate?
This raises an incredibly important question about how the body learns, and it is the absolute secret to scoring well. The 50-yard wedge shot is essentially the Rosetta Stone of the golf swing.
The Rosetta Stone?
Yes, because it is a much shorter motion, you cannot rely on sheer momentum or athletic force to save the shot. It relies entirely on the fundamentals we have just decoded. Your parallel alignment, the mobility of your finger grip, maintaining your spine angle, and prioritizing clean, compressed impact.
So you can't cheat it.
There is simply no time in a 50-yard swing to manipulate your hands or compensate for a flawed setup.
Because it is such a small movement, any mistake is instantly magnified. You can't fake a good 50-yard shot.
You cannot fake it, but here is the magic of it. Master the mechanics of that simple, highly manageable short shot. Train your muscles to hit it pure, straight, and precisely 50 yards every single time. When you achieve that, the mechanics of your entire full swing will organically clean themselves up.
Just automatically.
Yes. Your brain learns the feeling of letting the club head fall heavily in a continuous circle without panicking. Your hands learn the feeling of trapping and compressing the ball. When you take those exact same flawless mechanics and simply increase the length of the backswing with a 7-iron, suddenly you are compressing the ball and hitting it 150 yards right at the flagstick. Mastering the wedge shot builds your entire game from the hole backward.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, trying to make sense of this deeply complex game? To synthesize this entire journey, great golf is not about agonizing over 15 different moving parts or forcing your limbs into rigid textbook poses.
Not at all.
It is about setting up a geometry that allows a continuous natural swing to happen. You have to break the psychological trap of staring at the ball like it is the finish line, and instead let it simply get in the way of the heavy club head. You build your athletic setup around the tool itself.
Exactly.
You ensure your grip is in the fingers to maintain mobility. You trust parallel alignment, even when your instincts scream at you to aim away from your slice. You prioritize the physics of compression at impact over the aesthetic beauty of your backswing. And finally, you stop bowling in the dark. You use towels and tees to give yourself real-time feedback, ultimately culminating in the mastery of that 50-yard wedge shot.
By focusing strictly on these clear, understandable fundamentals, you completely bypass the overwhelming information overload that plagues the vast majority of amateur golfers.
And there is so much overload out there.
So much. You don't need a massive checklist. You need a solid setup, a relaxed grip, and a continuous motion. Trusting that process leads to faster, far more predictable improvement on the course.
It really is a complete mental reset, taking something overwhelmingly complicated and reducing it to physics and flow. And it leaves me with one final thought to mull over, even after you pack your clubs into the trunk. We spent a lot of time discussing how focusing intensely on the golf ball itself creates physical tension. Your brain locks up and your fluid swing breaks down simply because you are staring at the immediate object right at your feet, rather than looking out at the green in the distance.
It's a powerful metaphor.
It really is. It makes you wonder how much of your daily life, your career trajectory, or your personal relationships are being subtly derailed because you are hyper-focusing on the immediate stressful obstacle right in front of you, rather than keeping your eyes firmly fixed on your ultimate destination. Something to think about. Thanks for taking the deep dive with us.